and so brilliant to see you all. Isn't this a glorious building? And it's always frustrating when I get to new patches, like I've got tram envy currently. Really envious of the trams, and this building is really quite impressive. So thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you to also Simon, thank you for that, and Charlie. And I'm really excited about the bold ideas. As somebody who's come into politics later in life, I've no time to wait. I need bold ideas that we're going to deliver. So I can't wait to hear all of those from you. So thank you very much. And it's always a pleasure to speak at events like Reforms Conference, because decentralisation is the future. We are on the journey to a devolution revolution, and that is a bold idea. Definitely, we haven't seen that for many decades. And when Labour were last in power in '97, there were no mayors. And look at the landscape now, how different it is. And those mayors driving growth, opportunity, prosperity, every corner of the country to reduce regional inequality. And we've all heard from Keir and from the leaders in the heart of the Labour Party that this is something that they want to absolutely embrace. And Keir Starmer's saying that by devolution by default has got to be the theme in every department. And as we've heard from Simon, not every department is used to devolution, and it is going to, for some, be a struggle to change that mindset and that thinking. But also from our Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, where growth in the economy has got to be the priority. And how do you grow the UK's economy? You have to grow regional economies, and certainly in order to do that, we have to rebalance the economy outside of London. These centralised approaches that see London as the engine room for the entire country have just exacerbated regional inequalities. Inequalities that have held back regions across the country, and actually, quite frankly, are a matter of fairness, because how can it be right someone in the south of England can have a life expectancy of 5 years more than someone living in Yorkshire? Or the income gap between the north and south closing in on £5,000 a year, and that child poverty in the north remains 6% higher than the national average. And for those of you in the room that have seen the Health Equity North report, women of the north, and get ready for this, women of the north live shorter lives, work more hours for less, are more likely to be an unpaid carer, with fewer qualifications, worse mental health, more likely to suffer domestic violence than their counterparts in the rest of England. This impacts on our economy, where estimates suggest women in the north lose out a staggering £132 million a week compared to what they'd get paid if wages were the same as women in the rest of the country. And as someone who was the first female Metro Mayor in England, it is shaming, and it's actually a call to arms, isn't it? It's a mission that we must factor in to every decision we make. And now, while I am focused on putting more money into people's pockets, we also have to widen access to skills and opportunities with a bold programme for transport, skills and housing, but we also need to keep fairness and equality and diversity at the heart of all of those decisions. But of course, these bold statistics are part of a wider narrative of deprivation and challenge. And you will know better than me that the events of the last 5 years have been deeply destabilising, particularly for those in local and regional government. COVID posed potentially the greatest challenge to the local state since the Second World War, one that I know we are all having to manage the impact of. And since then, in the last 2 years, we've seen increased demand on adult and children's social care. We've seen energy prices rocket, the cost of living crisis, unsustainable funding, crumbling schools infected with reinforced aerated concrete. Time and time again, local government has had to find solutions to the crisis. So as we look to rebuild from the impact of the last 5 years, we've got to also reimagine and have those bold ideas, because the status quo cannot continue. We have got to look beyond Westminster and Whitehall to deliver. The combination of political chaos from the centre and financial constraints of local government has put significant impact on public confidence in politicians and democracy. And towards the end of the last government, trust in politicians to deliver was less than 50%. That's double the 2019 figures and the lowest on record. People have lost hope. And this is an attack on democracy. We have to build trust back in our politicians. With investment in infrastructure throughout the last Parliament at its lowest since 1997 and growth of 0.1% in 2023, I mean, it's easy to see why, isn't it? However, the one glimmer of hope is that in a recent report, the public's trust in local authority leaders and mayors was at the top of a poll where, sadly, I'm afraid, MPs were at the bottom. And certainly, having been a Member of Parliament and now the Mayor, as a Member of Parliament, everybody wants to kill you. Everybody hates you. Your inbox is full of bile. As the Mayor, young people want to take a selfie, older men want to kiss my hand, and I'll take it. And recently at an event at the Hepworth in Wakefield, half a dozen individual different people, and I haven't paid them, came up to say thank you for what you're doing for our community. You can see that the trust in mayors is absolutely linked to the visibility of delivery and being a champion and an advocate for our region, and surely we need that across the whole of the political spectrum. We have to devolve power, we have to devolve money, we also have to devolve responsibility. That is how we are going to rise to this challenge. And honestly, I know that the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, and Keir Starmer, they do understand it, they do get it as a solution to building back trust. Now we have 11 mayors across the country, more on the way, and in May we will have the 4th Yorkshire mayor. So the whole of Yorkshire, a region the size of Scotland, will all have a mayor. Think of the power of that. 4 mayors, and it is always place over politics. 4 mayors with Yorkshire on the tip of their tongue, being ambassadors for Yorkshire, not just here in the UK, but internationally. It is an opportunity that we cannot let slip through our fingers. Now, in West Yorkshire, I don't just represent one city, I represent the whole of the region. Leeds, Bradford, Wakefield, big towns like Huddersfield and Halifax, the 4th largest urban area in the country, but so frustrated that we punch below our weight. Our economy is not as large as it should be, it's not as productive as it could be, citizens don't have the skills that they could have, and people are not earning as much as they should. But I know what we need to do locally to drive forward local growth, because I'm immersed in these challenges every day, and every day those problems are front and centre of my mind to tackle. So from the businesses I meet, to communities I speak to, individuals who love to talk to me on the bus and the train, I'm a commuter and I'm available 24/7 supermarket. I hear from the public what they want, because for far too long, too many places in the north have had poor public transport holding us back. And in my region in particular, the lack of connectivity is greater than most. And that's why, very early on, in my first tenure as mayor, I took the decision to bring buses back into public control. We need control over routes and fares. It has to be run for people, not profit. We have to be able to get people to opportunity, to skills, to jobs, to cultural offer, to end loneliness, and to enable people to have that London-style network that we are all so jealous of when we go to the capital. That's why we were the first in the country, and Andy Burnham likes to say it's him, but I would suggest it's us that brought in the £2 Mayor's Fare last September, a year plus ago, and that is why we've also taken the decision to keep fares below the national £3 fare at £2.50, because we know the impact it has had on people's budgets, family budgets, and confidence using the buses. That's also why I am determined to bring in mass transit for West Yorkshire. It's a big challenge that faces us, but it needs a bold idea. And for Leeds to be the only city in Europe of its size not to have a tram network is an absolute scandal. And the idea that we can connect Leeds and Bradford together the size of Estonia, just imagine the opportunity that we could unlock for the people of Bradford, but also the people of Leeds that could finally get to Bradford quickly. I think this is a transformation that is going to be a game changer for decades to come. It's going to bring massive growth to our region. You'll have seen the announcement many years ago when HS2 was going to go to Birmingham. Millions of pounds of investment into Birmingham even before there was a shovel in the ground, because it's the confidence from business that brings that economic boost. Phase 2 alone of the development of Nottingham's tram network created 8,000 jobs, boosting their economy by 300 million every year. In West Yorkshire, mass transit would turbocharge our manufacturing businesses. In West Yorkshire, we have the most manufacturing jobs in the whole of the north. That's what we're good at. And local supply chains is also our speciality. We'll also be delivering thousands of skilled jobs for young people that can be decades long, because this is just the beginning of a huge infrastructure project that's going to last many years, and also support the redevelopment of many areas that have felt economically left behind, connecting them to those jobs, skills and opportunities, unblocking opportunities for housing and regeneration. And I am determined to deliver spades in the ground by 2038, 2028, just had to check myself there. And I am tempted to call it Tracy's Trams, but my team won't let me. That's also why we're pushing ahead for plans for a new through rail station in Bradford, those better connections with Leeds and with Manchester via Huddersfield. It's also got an opportunity to revitalise their city centre, creating an absolute palpable legacy after the incredible Bradford City of Culture 2025. These types of investments are absolutely vital, but they are driven by local leaders, supporting growth and investment in businesses and connecting people from less prosperous areas across West Yorkshire to those opportunities via reliable and safe public transport. But we also have to address the other side of the opportunity coin. It isn't just transport, it's also skills. We cannot allow West Yorkshire to slip behind in the skills arms race. And that's why in my manifesto last May, I committed to ensuring West Yorkshire would be a region of learning and creativity. We are going to reform our skills system to support people get the knowledge that they need to succeed. Modular system of learning, tailored to employers and learners. The creation of the West Yorkshire Promise. Businesses telling me young people are applying for jobs but actually can't communicate, they can't collaborate. They sometimes don't even know how to get on a bus. The West Yorkshire Promise will be an accredited badge to help learners demonstrate they've got the soft skills needed for the workplace. We're going to be building on the 90,000 people who've benefited from our adult education funding since it was devolved, increasing access to an extra 7,000 low-wage earners now able to access learning, because we, through devolution, changed the criteria from those earning the minimum wage to those earning the real living wage. 7,000 more people now have the opportunity to get a better paid job. And we're developing rapid and responsive training programs to meet employer demands for jobs. Bus drivers, telecoms engineers, those in the health and care sector, women leaving prison, helping them get into a place where they can get a job, delivering that once-in-a-generation opportunity through local decision-making. And that's what devolution gives, that's what devolution allows. Now, I know we can go further, and that's what I've campaigned for, wider, deeper devolution. So I was really pleased to see in the budget Rachel Reeves committing to a single settlement. Now, the single settlement is all the funding you would apply for in beauty contests rolled into one. You've seen it in Greater Manchester and West Midlands. We were told by the previous government we'd have to wait till 2028. I have no time to wait. So I'm really pleased that that's been brought forward to 2026. And South Yorkshire will also be on that journey with us of that single settlement, the ability to team and label money to be responsive to the needs that are urgent and in front of us. But this is a team effort. I cannot do this on my own. I need my 5 brilliant local authority leaders, because for too long local authorities have been underfunded and actually overburdened. We need the local authorities to be empowered with the resources that they've been crying out for. We need to reform public services in order to retain them for the future and invest in them to see better outcomes. We all know in this room there's no golden goose for growth, but you cannot boost the economy without boosting local investment and working together to create community spaces, to revitalise those urban centres and develop new and exciting homes to attract and retain talent in the areas that we need. We have to stop the firefighting. We have to get on an even keel. And the way we do that is a team sport. We work together equally, equitably, collectively and cooperatively, because to restore faith, not just in politicians, but in our country, we absolutely need change. And as chair of the UK Mayors, I'm speaking on a daily basis to government to encourage them and their ministers to have faith in devolution, because whilst it's a bridge we are building to an unknown future, surely that is the direction we must go in. If we're going to grow the economy across the UK, we have to work in partnership, but also be empowered with the tools to deliver the job. So we have to be bold, we have to decentralise, we have to devolve, and we have to empower. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know what is the most brilliant thing when you come out of London and you talk about devolution is just the level of passion that you hear from people who are so dedicated to a place that you can actually make a phenomenal difference in. And it is, I think we can all agree, just brilliant to hear, oozing out of every pore, if I can use it, it's probably not a great analogy, is it? But like, is that passion for improving the lives of the people who live in West Yorkshire, which is fabulous. I wanted to start, I'm going to open it up to questions, so do be thinking about what you would like to ask Tracy. But I thought I'd use Chair's prerogative just to ask a couple of questions myself, if that's okay. So you talked there about the importance of the single settlement. It's something we at Reform have written a lot about, the kind of, you know, the damage of the small pots and actually the amount of time and money you end up spending just to try and bid in, and, you know, the whole thing has been a complete mess. So you're getting the single settlement, that is brilliant. What will you get in it, and what would be the other things that you might want to get? Because you also mentioned the fact that not every part of Whitehall is quite as committed to the devolution agenda as we would like to see. So are the parts of it that actually you're thinking we might not get in the first tranche, but it's so important to the priorities you have for the area?
I think if we could just roll back a little bit on the question, because the single settlement is part of a journey we're all going to be on. Because we've been tasked, and it was actually a manifesto commitment of mine, to deliver a growth plan in the first 6 months. Now, the growth plan, all the mayors will have a growth plan. That is going to inform the industrial strategy, but it is the English devolution white paper that will give us the tools to deliver on the growth plan. So we're not waiting for 2026 to say to government, these are the tools that we need. So that is devolution of transport funding, of skills, adult education. We're also talking about post-16, because currently adult education and skills for me is 19. So those 3 years, young people have left school, they're falling through the net, and then I have to scoop them up at 19. We can do so much more. Also innovation. DSIT has, we talk about various departments, some are more Devo friendly than others. DSIT is, I think, a challenge because innovation has been driven so much from the centre, but I know my businesses and I know the opportunities and the way that we can put business together with places like Nexus in Leeds or 3M Buckley in Huddersfield University that are bringing business and innovation together to deliver products. We can do much more of that. So the English Devolution Bill is giving us the tools that will then enable the single settlement to be easier. So in Greater Manchester and West Midlands, for example, they are getting extra money for a retrofit and insulation for homes. Now, we have already in West Yorkshire developed a programme called the One Stop Shop, Home Energy West Yorkshire. We're already on our way, so I'm saying, why am I having to wait for a single settlement when you could just give us the money, we could absolutely, double the impact that we've got, and the need is critical. It's a climate emergency, we have to get on. So there's a number of things that we're working through in the English Devolution White Paper, but I'm hoping that we will be pushing that to such a point that we're not waiting for the single settlement per se. But it's absolutely, the fundamental point of it is to get rid of that begging bowl culture, where we're having to go back to Whitehall and Westminster, for money for example, leisure centres. And whilst this government is very much in a better place, when we had a previous government, the Conservative government, and Andrew Gilligan came to my office in Leeds to tell me I couldn't have a green roof on my new bus station in Halifax. I'm so glad you made the train journey. I'm so pleased to have heard from the fountain of knowledge about my bus station. It is quite something, but I'm not saying this government are the same, of course they're not. They're very much on the devolution journey. But there are people in Whitehall that believe that they can micromanage these problems. And we are facing global challenges that should not be micromanaged. When you have schemes talking about how you get chewing gum off pavements run from the centre, it's absurd. This government are very much in a different place, and the interchange and the connection with the centre is off the scale in comparison to how it was 3 years under a Conservative government. I've probably had more impact or more connection with the centre in the last few weeks than the last 3 years. So I do believe they've bought into it, but the single settlement is key.
And I just want to follow up on one part of that, because we have a huge challenge. You will do in your area with economic inactivity,
yes,
with health and access to healthcare, and I guess DWP. You mentioned DSIT, but DWP and apologies if we have people in here who are DWP or DHSC. Though great you've come to talk about this. But they have been quite difficult to get to think about the devolution agenda, and yet you're talking brilliantly about skills, about really tailoring support to what local businesses need to make sure that people can make the most of the labour market that you have in this area, but actually being able to do more around what the health services look like, what Job Centre Plus is doing, what actually the benefit system is doing, would surely make a huge impact on your ability to drive the outcomes you want to see, and yet we're not seeing huge amounts of movements in those two areas.
Well, just on that point, I'd say yesterday or today's announcement about the Trailblazers for mayors, every mayoral combined authority will have a programme. I think it's £11 million, 11 million pounds, to draw, exactly your point, to draw together our exceptionalism as mayoral combined authorities, where we can have the soft power to bring in health and housing and DWP and so on. And we're pleased that we've got a chunk of money to tackle those economically inactive, because it's over 100,000 people in West Yorkshire. It's an absolute scandal. And we know we can do more. We know that mental health is also a challenge, which is why I'm pleased in West Yorkshire we have got one of the first creative health systems, where our creative sector and our health system, our ICB and ICS, are working together with money and resources, and work with the University of Huddersfield to deliver community creativity to support people back into a better place so that they can work. But it's not just getting people into work, it's also stopping people falling out of work. And so that's why we have a West Yorkshire Scientific Advisory Group. I don't have responsibilities for childcare, but I think it's really important that we tackle the challenge of childcare that is keeping people out of work. So I set them the exam question, what can I do with my powers? And they've developed a paper for me to inform my decisions around this health inequality and also inactivity to support people to get back into work. So whilst I think that there is definitely more that we can do and further to go, but I think the leadership that Liz Kendall has shown in this space has been very welcome, and she definitely wants to push back against civil servants who aren't used to working in this way. But surely devolution gives us that unique superpower to bring people into the room, that soft power to be innovative and to deliver better outcomes. We're not there, but I think it's a good step in the right direction. The big question is, do we want to be involved in sanctions and paying job seekers allowances? I'm not sure that's going to be what we're going to be good at, but certainly getting people and having that person-centered approach to get people into a good space where they can even think about getting a job is something that we can be very good at.
Brilliant. I'm going to ask one more question and I'm going to open it up to the floor. So you talked about being the first person to bring the buses back in-house, so to speak. No, the Mayor's Fair.
Okay. Yeah, so the bringing buses back under public control has been done elsewhere.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
okay.
So the B network, as you will see in Greater Manchester, is doing really
well. Yes, it's brilliant. But there's sort of, there have been some who have argued actually that kind of a healthy level of sort of, bit of rivalry between combined authorities is perhaps a quite good thing. But also the flip side to that is that, as you talked about, the power of the sort of pan-regionalism and bringing together these, again, as you pointed out, popular, rooted, really recognised elected figures. And I just wondered about your thoughts. I think we will hear about some of this in the white paper. I think, the government's been talking about what would that pan-regional level potentially look like. But when we're talking about transport, as you rightly say, it's actually beyond the boundaries that you would have, that we need to see. And I guess I was wondering what your kind of initial hopes are for what that kind of pan-regionalism model might look like that gets you that Yorkshire-wide or even perhaps beyond power.
Well, it's a brilliant question, and thanks for that. And as I've spoken about Yorkshire, that's an opportunity, but also Convention of the North, which I felt, it was held in Leeds, and it felt like a movement. It was quite, it felt a bit revolutionary that it was cross-party, and it was mayors and local authority leaders and others coming together with the big challenges that affect us all, and how collectively can we solve them. So, for example, transport, energy, research and development, international trade and investment. All of those themes are consistent across the North and are our challenges. So collectively, surely we could come together as part of the solution. So a few months ago, 5 of the 7 northern mayors ran the Great North Run. Absolutely poured it down all day.
Who was the quickest?
Oh, don't. Andy Burnham, yet again, But I was pleased to have done it, and I think we all did well, and Oliver Coppard also.
That's incredible.
He did well. But on that day, we launched the Great North, which is the North coming together with the missions from the Convention of the North, those common challenges that we can we can deal with collectively. Because on a trade mission to India last year, I was very proud that I represented 2.4 million people, and I was being a bit boastful about it. And in the meeting, it's like, mate, that's a village in India. I'm like, okay, you're dead right. But just think, the North speaking with one voice, talking about how we tackle the UK energy crisis, how we make ourselves self-sufficient, amazing. And one of the first things that we've done, and I was, some of you may know, before I became a politician, I was in the creative industries. It's been something I've been very passionate about. So working with the Royal Society of the Arts, Channel 4, the BBC, all the mayors, PEC, universities, conservatoires, we've come together as one creative North. And Jude Kelly, some of you may know, she is scoping out and has been doing it for the last few months what this offer would be. It's a £50 million fund that would support creative businesses that show the opportunities for growth. It's also research and development and connectivity. People are often in their little silos and don't know about their communities, but also it's about the skills of the North and the creative industries. We're already doing brilliant stuff. We can do more by drawing it together. Just think what we can do to offset that tilt of investment in the creative industries in the South. We could start to rebalance that in the North. And it's a growing sector. Invest in a sector that's growing, it's going to grow faster. So that's one example of how I think the North can come together under that great North banner. And there is definitely an appetite to support it from the centre.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the floor. I will say my usual thing, which is that I want to make sure we get as many questions as possible, so please just give your name and your organisation and keep it to a question, or I will very rudely interrupt you. So I apologise in advance if I do that. So I'll take 3 questions, so the lady was very quick here. I think we do have a microphone, yep. And then there's a gentleman at the back there, yep. And was there a third? I think I saw him go up for a third. Yep, gentleman just here at the front then.
Thank you, good morning. My name is Grace Duffy from the British Outcomes Partnerships. We've working with Kirklees on the Kirklees Better Outcome Partnership. So kind of to ask a question on the politics and the practicality. So, you've talked about, and I really like your point about sort of the link with trust and delivery in local government. And I'm wondering what that means for the kind of the politics of further decentralisation. If the Labour Party in the centre of government isn't going to get the benefits of the great delivery of devolution, how do we kind of make that work for the centre of government as well in terms of their incentives to devolve to local areas? And then practically on the, you talked about the team sports, and I'm wondering what role the mayors coming together could play in terms of that kind of more strategic commissioning, and what would be the enablers of that?
Thank you, and then it's just a gentleman at the back there. Sorry, behind, at the back. Yeah. Oh, you've got a microphone. Perfect.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Kamal Panchal, Local Government Association. Hi, Tracy. That's really compelling what you've said there. I just wanted to understand from you how you see the dynamics of that relationship between yourselves and the constituent local authorities, rest of local government, your patch sort of changing. What is it that you would like from them? Or perhaps what can you offer them as well, given their sort of more local challenges as well over the coming years?
Great, thank you. And yet the gentleman just at the front, you can probably shout if you're happy to.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you. Morning, my name is Tom Hughes from Macmillan Cancer Support. It's obviously fantastic to hear your sort of comments on how you can work to support population health. And I was wondering what you're hoping for or what you're looking for longer term in terms of how the combined authority work with your local NHS structures, in terms of like how you could be involved with say like the ICB or the ICS. And you mentioned as well like sort of personalised support for getting people into employment, and just be really interested to hear your thoughts on that sort of personalised support for people's health as well. So obviously that's quite an important part of getting people back into work.
Brilliant, thank you so much.
Great, so fantastic questions there. So firstly, thank you for all that you're doing in Kirklees. It's an amazing programme and it's getting fantastic outcomes and a trailblazer, and I keep talking about the work that you're doing as a reference for great stuff, so thank you. I think the prize is growth. I think, as Rachel Reeves said, the growth figures that were out a couple of months or so ago, very disappointing, and it's not the height of her ambition. You grow the economy, we are going to be helpful to government, and I think they will see, and they will be able to reap the rewards of that. And strategic commissioning, we've been speaking about procuring buses collectively, because you'll see that there's a pattern of delivery, that Greater Manchester, they have their buses, they have their network, London are expanding. I'm on a journey to all the network be in place by 28, so I'll be buying buses, then Oliver will be buying buses, then David Scaife. So how can we, for economies of scale, have a sort of a standard of a bus, and then you can make it bespoke for your region, in order to invest in manufacturing, keep it in the UK and all of that. So I think that is a prize definitely worth having. And Kamal, what do I want from local authorities? Well, to do what you continue to do what you're doing, to keep the faith. And my understanding is that things are going to get better, because there's going to be an understanding now of deprivation when it comes to funding, and it feels like there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But what I would say to local authorities, and I have got this in my region, so I am very blessed actually, that we are in lockstep for the strategic vision of the region. Of course, everybody is anxious looking at what's in front of them, their hand in front of their face. I've urged my leaders, because they're all part of the combined authority, we have to look to the future as well. We can't just panic now and then drop the ball on mass transit or bus franchising or building affordable homes, because we have to keep that vision for a better future. So not everybody's in that place. And I know for some people, they don't want devolution because they don't want a mayor, and that's great, but you have to keep that strategic vision for your patch. And actually, I am worried that those people outside of MCAs might also be missing out, because devolution's brought £3 billion worth of investment to West Yorkshire. I mean, if you don't want a mayor and you don't want mayoral combined authorities, tell me where you're going to get that money from. So it is a challenge. So for local authorities that don't have a mayor, trust that devolution is going to deliver for you. And for Macmillan, I really do believe that integration, whilst I don't have responsibilities for health, the only mayor that does is Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester. What I've tried to do is just to hide the wiring between us. So I sit on the Integrated Care Board. Their co-chair sits on my Place Partnership Board. I've an inclusivity champion, Fatima Khan Shah, that helps me tackle the inequalities across my patch. By working, she's part funded by health and part funded by us, so she's the bridge. And also, as I say, the Creative Health Partnership, the first in the country, we are hoping that that will deliver dividends, and then we can use that as an exemplar for other things and other partnerships that it doesn't have to be that we are just one agglomeration. We could just be doing things that we're very good at together. And I would say, for those people that know Rob Webster,
I was going to say you have Rob Webster.
Yeah, he leads brilliantly with great innovation and bold ideas from the centre.
It does make me think, though, the pair of you, imagine what you could do if you did have more of control of the NHS, but that's a whole other conversation. Though I do recommend you read our paper, Close Enough to Care, which calls for the devolution of the NHS to combined authorities as they mature, because we do think across the board there are a lot of areas where actually the NHS side is not working hand in glove with local government side. So there we go and check that out. Okay, I've got time for another 3 questions. Who would like to ask? It's an unusually quiet audience. There we go. So Andrew, your hand up, and then we've got a lady just here and a gentleman over here. Oh, sorry.
Great, thanks Tracy. Really inspiring to hear you speak. So I'm Andrew Laird from Mutual Ventures and the Radical Reformers podcast. Excuse me. There are lots of us in this room who are dying to get really excited about this and feel that this is genuinely a moment where devolution happens properly and real radical place leadership and place working is enabled. Are we right to allow ourselves to get excited?
Great.
I can't believe you've asked that question, but anyway.
You're not heard.
I'm talking more about central government's
Okay.
commitment to it as well. I'm excited about what you're saying.
And there's a lady just at the back and a lady here as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's Beth Perry, I'm the Director of the Urban Institute at the University of Sheffield. Really enjoyed your talk. My question is how you see the role of universities in devolution in the context of what's an increasingly serious funding crisis across the sector.
Sorry,
Just repeat that. Sorry, I was just trying to see you.
The role of universities and how that links with the funding crisis within universities, presumably. Yes.
It's the same issue both with local
universities
where
absolutely.
they're having to do more with less and responsibilities being devolved, but not necessarily power and money.
Great, thank you. And the lady just here as well.
Thank you. Ruth Hubbard from It's Our City and Sheffield Oversight and Scrutiny. I understand you speak to a particular moment that you see, and I want to speak to a different moment. A couple of weeks ago here in Sheffield, that was a very different conference. It was the Fearless Cities Conference. A collection of 400 people arrived here from around the world and in the region, citizens aiming to take over their cities. I'm not sure you've understood the scale of the democratic problem, and we are in a full-scale legitimacy crisis.
Sorry, we're running out of time. So
delivery, what you can do, and I appreciate what you're speaking to, is not going to solve that problem. Where are your civil society strategies? Where are your democratic strategies that run along your economic strategies and that do indeed relate to them? Economic models that are extractive, etc., that we see for you will not solve that democratic crisis.
Thank you, and actually that was a really good question, because there is no point having mayors if they don't hear from the public and they don't work in lockstep collaboratively with civil society. And that is why everything that we undertake, we are pushing the boundaries of where we've ever been before in consultation and engagement and co-production. So my police and crime plan, co-produced with the sector. We've become a child-first organisation working with young people. Citizens UK, our partners. We will not stand by and be another level of government where there is no voice for the community. There's definitely more we can talk to. I'd love to hear more about what you have to say. And if you could just give us some information about things that I could read about Fearless Cities, it sounds really exciting. The challenge is who's getting involved. Because often when I was talking about having a youth combined authority, but it was the same young people that are part of, local authorities, democracy unit and so on. They're articulate, they're smart, and I love them, they're amazing, but they are not the only voice that we need to hear from. So that is why Fatima is so pivotal, because she is reaching into communities that are the furthest away from power. I absolutely need to represent everybody, and I will do everything in my power to make that happen. So thank you very much, Ruth. Universities, working with universities has been a massive privilege. I meet all the Vice-Chancellors regularly, including Yorkshire universities and York, outside of my patch, but it's Yorkshire universities. And I know the challenge that is facing you, particularly around foreign students, courses going because you just can't get students onto it, the challenge of funding versus students and making sure that everybody who wants to go to university can. There is a challenge, not everybody wants to go to uni, we also have to have a technical pathway that is of equal relevance and equal value. So it's really important that I also work with AFE colleges. We have a compact, I think it's the first in the country. The FE colleges working together to team and ladle their opportunities so everybody is not scrambling for the same number of students for English and maths. And the funding model, just keeping them in this vortex of lack of innovation and creativity. So I think it's really important that mayors work very closely with the university and FE sector, particularly if I'm going to deliver on mass transit, if I'm going to deliver that hundreds of thousands of retrofit homes. I need the training programs. I need the young people, the smarts, to deliver those great, fantastic regeneration programs. And finally, am I excited? Well, honestly, you can see that I am. And I do think being part of this wave of devolution is going to be something that people are going to be doing PhDs on for decades to come, because it's the biggest seismic shift in unravelling power at the centre out to the regions. But does everybody at the centre get it? I don't think they do, because I've been in Parliament. I know that you can get very much into that Westminster bubble. It is easy to do because also you're legislating and it feels dynamic and it feels like you're making a difference across the country. But for us, delivering growth, I think, will then be the game changer, because you will see that the only way to get growth that you need as a nation is to empower and deepen devolution across the whole country. So, you know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, so let's hope the government are ready with a big fat spoon.
Tracy, it's been an absolute joy to open the conference with you. Thank you so much, and I think that energy and enthusiasm will take us through for the rest of the day. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.